Hello, today is the day specified by the United Nations for remembering migrants, and particularly the contribution that migrants can make to the countries that they've adopted. And I wanted to introduce you, if you haven't already come across him, to Gurwali Pasaley, who wrote a book called The Lightless Sky, in which he describes his own experience. He's an Afghan who, at the age of 12, was sent with his brother Hazrat to stay with his uncle, or so he thought. His mother had lost her father and her husband. They were suspected by the American occupying forces of being Taliban supporters. Gurwali says he doesn't know whether they were or not. He was too young to have that sort of conversation in front of him. But his mother was not prepared to lose other men close to her, and so she sent the two boys to the uncle as the first stage, though they only discovered this later, of a long journey across 10 countries to eventually end up in Great Britain. It cost Gurwali's mother thousands of dollars, and the system that took him across all these countries didn't entirely work, as his book outlines. And indeed, he himself came to some danger. He nearly died crossing the Mediterranean. He was put into a tank for part of the journey, where there were toxic chemicals, and he was severely burned and had to go to hospital. And then when he got to the UK, although he was 13 by this point, nobody on the panel that makes these decisions would recognise him as a child. They thought he must be over 18, and it took him years to prove that he was not that age and could have some of the privileges of a child refugee. So he was eventually given to foster parents in Burnley, went to Manchester University and got a degree in politics and philosophy. He has contributed enormously as a way of saying thank you, I suppose, to the country which eventually, with a lot of arm twisting, accepted him. The list of things that he's done: he's a global youth ambassador for a children's charity. He was president of the United Afghan Peace Movement, the chair of the Afghan Youth Movement, a patron of the Separated Child Foundation, a commissioner in the Children's Society, a member of the Bolton Youth and Children in Care Council, and of the Youth Forum in Northwest England. A whole host of things. And indeed, when he was still at school in the sixth form, he was chosen to carry the Olympic flag in 2010 as one of the millions that applied, but he was one of the ones chosen to have that privilege. Now, of course, not every immigrant is going to make that kind of contribution, but some do, and others will make a very different kind of contribution to society. But I think what the United Nations is asking us to remember today is that there are many immigrants who will make that sort of contribution to the societies to which they've become part, if we will let them. And I think today I want us just to remember those who feel that they have to flee from their home country. I mean, that's a big step for anyone to take. And sometimes it's because of conflict, sometimes it's because of poverty, and sometimes it's in order to raise money to be able to send back to support the family that you've left behind. There are all sorts of reasons why people need to move to somewhere where they think their lives are going to be better. But really what we want is a world where they don't have to do that. They don't have to do it because there isn't any conflict, any war. They don't have to do that because the wealth of the poorer nations is brought up to much nearer to a level of the more wealthy nations. We want to change the world if we're really going to do something about migration. But meanwhile, let's recognise the needs of those who feel that they have to take that long journey to a different country, and hope that governments and the people of the nations of Europe and America will welcome such people and enable them to make a contribution that many of them will want to make. to the societies that they have chosen to adopt.